Hello and welcome to the Outcomes Over Hours show. I'm Tina Patterson and I'm delighted with the guest that I have here today. I'm here today with Rohit, who is a regional director with Gallup, working with clients across the Asia Pacific region. Rohit is also a sought-after speaker representing Gallup at conferences as well as other events. But there's a particular reason why I wanted Rohit on the show today, and that's because of Gallup's report, the 2023 State of the Australia and New Zealand Workplace Report. And I'm just going to read a little bit that's on there, where what they found was that 4 in 5 employees in Australia and New Zealand are not thriving at work. And almost half of Australian workers say they experienced a lot of stress on the previous day. Low engagement costs Australia and New Zealand a combined 245 billion Australian dollars a year. And as I'm sure you're aware, it also impacts on the mental and physical health of workers. So Rohit, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you for having me here.
Well, first of all, I'd love for you to just share. I mentioned the report from Gallup and the staggering statistics and the findings that you had. What can you share with us about, what you are seeing at the moment in the workplace?
I think it's just not Australia and New Zealand alone. I think we have this situation globally. We have this kind of situation where over the last 15 years, even before COVID, we've had a rampant increase in what we call as negative emotions, where we talk about stress, anger, physical pain, worry, and those kind of negative emotions are on the rise. And I think this last year, we were the highest we have ever been. And last year, we published a book, our current CEO, John Clifton, published a book called The Blind Spot. I think we have it here. It's a must read. If you read, you see the graph, this is the actual graph of negative emotions globally, and represents how we are going. Even I think COVID kind of accelerated that because we were caught a bit unawares. I think in Australia and New Zealand, it's kind of a similar story in a way. We're going through a lot of change in the way we operate. We're going through a change in terms of what COVID has left us with. And we're already in a lot of complications as a region where digital transformation, as well as millennials and Gen Zers, now Generation Alpha, joining the workplace. So imagine all of this kind of hitting corporates at once. You would imagine that it would lead to a lot of these outcomes.
Wow, I mean, that is quite scary hearing that. So when you speak with corporates on this topic, what are the type of things that that you suggest to them in terms of what they should be thinking about associated with this?
I think sometimes people have their kind of heart in the right place, but they don't necessarily have the solutions to support. So everybody wants to solve this. I haven't met a person who says, this is all right, we'll be fine. I think they're all kind of impressed by the magnitude of this problem and also kind of somehow feel responsible. But like you said early on that, they don't know what to do really with it. I think there are a few things that I would press upon at a macroeconomic level. There are some kind of policy changes that need to happen at the government level, at the at overall level within countries, because it's varying, not just globally, it's varying within countries as well. But then when it comes down to corporate, we spend about large proportion of our awake time at work. You know what I'm saying? So what it means is that somewhere that stress is coming from within that workplace. I think acknowledging that, I think people know that, but it has become a norm sort of a thing. But acknowledging that it cannot sustain like this for long. If we feel that we're okay going along, it's not okay. It's not going to be all right to kind of still focus on retrospective metrics like even globally, if you look at, or at a country level, we still look at GDP as a indicator of our of an economy or for a country's thriving, but it shouldn't be. It should be people's kind of people feeling kind of their life is thriving, right? So we focus on where we focus within Australia and New Zealand, and large part of Gallup's work focuses on helping corporates find ways to sustainably drive uh, outcomes, like you mentioned, but through our tools, through our research, and large part of what we do is engage and inform managers, coach them, inform leaders, coach them, provide them with data and tools that allow them to kind of start making those small changes to big changes as needed.
Yeah, fabulous. And if we bring it down to the personal level and your own leadership style, I mean, you've had a stellar career at Gallup over 2 decades. Can you share how your own leadership style has changed over that time?
Um, I've always felt that given what my strengths are, who am I as a person, um, I've always felt that I was naturally good at a few things, right? I was naturally good at being authentic. I don't like unnecessary complications. I don't like unnecessary dramas. Well, corporate doesn't come rid of that, but how do I kind of acknowledge that we will still have some of it there? So, but I try to keep my side of the slate clean. I love developing people. I love creating more leaders. It's a passion I have. It's a strength I have. I kind of have been kind of I have been aware of that within me. And then the third thing, I love solving problems for others, people I know, people I care about. These have been my strengths for a long time since I've known myself. But then there are other things that I know that I have not been good at since the beginning, right? I'm not a very kind of detail-oriented person. I'm not necessarily always structured. I go with the flow in the sense that if I have a different idea, if I have a different strategy or a different plan, I'll just follow along just to maximize the outcome, sometimes without understanding how it will kind of impact the process or impact the other details that kind of follow through. So I've kind of learned to work on those aspects of my leadership, work to be, even though I may not require structure, but people that work with me are kind of dependent on my leadership, might need structure. If I don't care about details, somebody else might. So how do you kind of bring a bit more empathy and kind of other people's needs besides what they say, obviously, things that they don't say. And sometimes they don't even realize that they need those things. How do we kind of be conscious about those things? I think over a period of time, I've made myself to at least minimize the impact or negative impact of things that I don't have and maximize the impact of things I have.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And if you're thinking about the future of work and where we're probably, well, I don't think at all we're going back to full-time in the office, even though some may say differently. If you think about hybrid and this different way of working, what do you think? And also from the research that you're seeing through Gallup, is the 2 to 3 skills that leaders should be amplifying as they think about being effective for the decades to come?
I think we've been saying this for a long time, and there are different kind of aspects to it, and I'll probably try to cover some of it. So we kind of get a few ideas, or at least your viewers get a few ideas of what to pick out of this. First and foremost is that it is hybrid. I think hybrid is a way to be. It's there's no question about it. I think people who are remote capable, large proportion of them prefer to be hybrid, but it's not that straightforward, first of all, right? There are people who are right now hybrid. A third of them say that virtual meetings are not effective. And a significant proportion of them say that, they want more social interaction, right? Now, answer seems simple, right? Let's have some days where we meet in person, other days we will work remotely, and things will be sorted. So we get the social interaction, we get our own time as well. But then which days? Some people prefer Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Some people prefer Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. I mean, it doesn't, the problem doesn't solve for here. So one thing, and this is more overarching thing, is what we say is that it is not a promise company is making to you as an employee. The hybrid is not a promise company is making to the organized employees. It is a promise that employees are making to each other. How do we make it work? So there is a certain bit of ownership employees have to kind of take almost to make it work if they really care about it to work, right? That's number one. Number two is, I think, one thing that has not changed in this whole scheme of things over past decade for us, despite COVID and other things, is us knowing that the needs, the psychological needs of people at work have not changed, right? If you want people to be psychologically committed to your work, to your team, to your customer, to your purpose, you need to be able to fulfill their psychological needs first, right? And those psychological needs have not changed. Do I feel I have my role clarity? Do I have my materials and equipments? Do I have manager who cares? Do I have team who cares about me? Do I have growth? Do I have development? Do I have a mission and purpose? Do I have an opportunity to learn and grow? Do I have a very competent team? Do I have friendships and relationships at work? Those are kind of psychological needs that you need to fulfill, and you need people and managers and leaders who can fulfill those needs. In fact, if you remember, the research here shows that you're almost 3.8 times engagement has 3.8 times more influence on employees' stress as compared to the work location. And
wow, can you say that again? Because I think that is so powerful.
Gallup analysis finds that engagement has 3.8 times as much influence on employee stress as work location.
Wow.
Right? Now, think about that. So if you're able to meet the psychological needs of employees, it doesn't matter where they are. Right? Now, the other thing to keep in mind here is you talked about 4-day work week. I can solve that myth in a minute, right?
Go for it.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter how many days. If you have a great manager, you can work 4 days a week and be very productive. And if your manager is able to psychologically meet your needs and get you kind of connected to the job, to the organization, to the purpose, you can work 4 days a week. In fact, you would want to work 5 days a week. But then if you have a crappy manager, sorry for my language, reducing it from 5 days to 4 days is not reducing your stress. It's just piling up the stress for the remaining 4 days. It's the same thing. So how do you kind of, like I said, the intention is there, but how do you kind of look through data? And judgment can sometimes, your own experience can sometimes feel like you're doing the right thing, but that's where Gallup stands out, is that we don't say something because we think it is right. We say something because we know it is right. It is data backed, and we have put a lot of effort and excellence behind producing that data, right? So we take a lot of care about that. And then the last piece is, I don't know if you kind of read this book called Strengths-Based Leadership. I talked to you about my strengths earlier, and that's what we do with all our people. Help them be aware of their strengths, and this is what we do with our clients. Help them be aware of their strengths, what they naturally bring to the table. In that book, we have done probably the only research where there are millions of books on leadership, but there's no book on followership, right? So in that book, we talk about what do followers need. And they need 4 key things. They need trust, stability, hope, and compassion. Now tell me, as a leader, how are you bringing, not only how are you meeting those psychological needs at workplace? How do you have a structured way of doing that? How do you have a proper way of doing that? But then how in your personal leadership style, you are bringing stability, hope, compassion, and trust within workplace environment. If you're able to do that, you can deal with monster calamities. You know what I'm saying? And this was a monster calamity, and you could have dealt with it. And in fact, I can tell you this, we have seen, and this is more anecdotal than a global research. In many of our clients, in fact, most of our clients through pandemic, what happened was what I used to call a K curve, which is that there were managers who were good. They actually became great during that process. And then there were managers who were average. They actually became tanked in their engagement, performance, and everything through the pandemic. That's the differentiator between a good organization. So if you have more managers who are good, who are capable, they will see you through any situation, any change management situation, any calamity. While if you have average managers and you've not put enough effort in hiring selecting, developing your managers, you will see these things hit you faster than anything else.
Oh, that's so insightful, Rohit. And I agree. I think when I started my business, I was working with everyone. And then I remember once when I was doing a group program, but it wasn't with the leaders. And this person said to me at the end, they said, that was fabulous, but it won't work for me. And I said, oh, okay. Can you tell me more? And they said, my boss hasn't been through your program. And I'm thinking about your K curve of them saying, you know, it doesn't matter what I learn and how practical it is. If my boss isn't on board, I'm going to really, really struggle. And in that moment, I realized, hang on, I'm working with the wrong people. I actually need to work with the leaders. They're the ones who have the biggest impact then on the broader employee base. So I really find that interesting, though, that K curve as such.
Yeah, that's just my term. It's not a Gallup term.
Yeah, I love it.
But you know what I'm saying, because I present to a lot of organizations and a lot of very capable leaders, but it is sometimes sometimes takes a lot of effort to help them understand that an organization is not just a lump of people. There is a structure to it.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of competence to it. And you don't need to solve all problems, but if you have right people at right levels, they will solve all the problems for you.
Completely. Oh, there's so much gold in what you've just shared. Thank you so much. I would love to hear, what's the best, most practical advice you've ever been given that you've used of working smarter in your career?
I think it goes back again. I'm probably married to the brand, I would say, but for me, I'm a very purpose-driven person. So if I connect to an idea, if I connect to a goal or a vision, then I'm usually I can run by myself. You know, I can bring people along. I can bring people together and take them on a journey with me on that goal, because I believe in that goal, right? Some of the best advice I have got through working has been quite basic in terms of, number one, focusing on your strength. It seems too obvious, but trust me, it is not so obvious as you would see. You still have leaders still focusing on, it is so ingrained in us to focus on our weaknesses, even not only through corporate world where we are taught to achieve competencies without knowing whether those competencies are achievable in the first place. And then so focusing on strengths, be the best version of yourself, is what I love for me to and others to follow, which I kind of keep telling them, is be the best version of yourself. Because if you try to be the best version of others, you will suck at it. You will be horrible at it.
It's so true.
If you be the best version of yourself, you are investing in time in knowing yourself, knowing how you show up, knowing how you show up for yourself and for others, right? And then in the process, if you're true to yourself, then you exactly become what you want to become. And that's exactly my story, because I wanted to be somebody who I am right now, in a way where I could kind of authentically lead without having. But I used to see a lot of people back in my day, when I joined corporate early on. I have seen and experienced a lot of leaders who have kind of two personalities.
Yeah.
Right? One personality is where they are off the radar and on the radar kind of a personality. And I hated that. And I thought for a while that that's how corporates work and that's how I have to be. And I hated the fact that I have to be like that, till I realized that I don't need to. And it might work for others. It doesn't work for me. And I'm glad and I'm blessed to be working with a company like Gallup, where they genuinely push you to be more of yourself than somebody else.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. And I agree with you. And I've spoken with so many people on this show and outside of it as well, who felt that early on in their careers that they have to be professional in this way, and then their more relaxed version or authentic version, whatever that looked like. And over time have realized, actually, hang on, they should just be one and the same. I don't need two different versions. Yeah. So it's interesting that a lot of people, it takes a little bit of time to be able to get that perspective to go, hang on, I'm me, and this is how I am, whether it's at work or at a barbecue on the weekend.
Yeah, and I can also acknowledge the fact that not everybody will have the luxury to be like that. Because like you said, when the boss is not on board with the idea, then you are a bit. But I would strongly recommend. I think we are now seeing a generation like millennial, Gen Zers, or Generation Alpha. They're not working for money. Many of them actually have a fairly kind of many of them, I would say, have a fairly kind of a set situation as far as money is concerned, because they know that even if they, let's say, drove an Uber, they'll get money. So money per se is not the concern, is having something that they feel meaningfully attached to, and they feel that they're able to kind of get the best out of themselves. I would encourage people to do more of that than having to sit in with a boss or a manager who doesn't appreciate what they bring to the table. Because if we do that fast enough, it is going to reorganize world order, corporate order in the right direction very, very quickly.
Yeah. And as so many people say, people don't leave a company, they leave a boss.
Gallup
So
research.
completely agree. Well, Rohit, I'd love to finish up with some rapid fire questions. Are you up for it?
100%.
Okay, well, the first one is, what is the best thing you've bought for under roughly $100?
This one again. The best thing I bought for under $100 is for my daughter, who's now 11. I bought her Strengths Explorer when she was 9.5, which was an assessment to help her understand her strengths. And funny enough, she went through the assessment and she's like, I'm like Papa, because she has a couple of strengths very similar to mine, and she was very proudly flaunting that. That has left a memory in my head. I think that will stay like that for a long time. I think it was $10.
Oh, fabulous. And what is the book that you've either recommended or gifted most to others? And I know you've already mentioned some. It might be one of them or a different one.
Well, I love a lot of books, but it's not necessarily what the book I love a lot is the one that I'll recommend always, because recommendation is usually, I coach a lot of my team members. I have recommended a lot of them with the book by James Clear, Atomic Habits. I think it's a very practical book, very good, very easy to read, and very kind of the reason why I like that book also is because it goes down to the fundamental nature of who you are. It goes down to your identity, right? That's what I love personally. That's what I love to kind of get people started on. There are other kind of B2B sales books that I'll suggest, because they're not about sales. They're really about kind of being more meaningfully impactful in terms of your approach to selling, generally speaking. And then I think for I love Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. I love Blind Spot. It is based on 5 million interviews. So
wow,
if you are a data nerd, this is holy grail for you.
Perfect.
And I also love a very old book by our chairman called The Coming Job Wars, again, because it was extremely based on data. It was way ahead of its time, I'd say. It was written about 15 years back, and we're seeing that now.
Amazing. And finally, Rohit, what does outcomes over hours mean to you?
I think for me, it's not just for me, but it is leading the future generations. It is leading the way people like in the world of AI, hours have no meaning. In the world of AI, hours have no meaning. What you could do in 2 hours, you can do that in 30 seconds. Now, how many hours do you need to spend for being hours focused? You know what I'm saying? So we were just talking with our consulting team today, and we were saying, how can we use AI more in our work to help the quality and quantity of outcome for our customers for the same scope of work? And believe it, when I say this, we spent an hour and there were like 20 ideas where we could do what probably 20 people could do over a 2-day period. We could do by one person in 2 hours. Right. So I'm not exaggerating this. So hours have no meaning in the world of AI, in my opinion. And I think I personally believe in 1 month and have been. I'm a cricket fan. I'm a Dhoni fan. And he used to always say that focus on process and excellence, the outcomes will follow. Right. I think if you're spending hours, at least spend them on process and excellence. And if you do those things, then there's no way in hell that outcomes will not follow.
Oh, wow. What a powerful description. I absolutely love that. Well, Rohit Kar, thank you so much for being a guest of mine today on the Outcomes Over Hours show.
Thank you so much, Tina, for having me.